Have you ever felt just this deep, unexplainable exhaustion that a good night's sleep just can't cure?
Oh, absolutely. Like all the time.
Right. And I'm not talking about physical fatigue after a long run or, the burnout from working 50 hours a week.
No, it's something way deeper than that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm talking about a structural exhaustion, like
Yeah.
the exhaustion of simply being you.
Being you. Yeah.
It is this relentless, full-time, totally unpaid job of maintaining a consistent, legible, and predictable identity for the rest of the world to see and evaluate.
It really is a profound kind of tiredness, one that permeates almost everything we do.
Yeah.
But we rarely have a vocabulary for it, right? Because we just assume it's the baseline cost of being alive in a modern society.
Yeah, you just accept it.
Exactly. You wake up, you put on your identity, and you go to work defending it all day.
It makes me think of the self as all those background apps running on your smartphone.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Right. You've got location services tracking where you are,
Mm-hmm.
social media constantly refreshing your feeds in the background, Bluetooth, just like constantly searching for external connections.
Just draining everything.
Yes. You aren't actively looking at those apps, but they are draining your battery all day long simply because they are continuously pinging towers and searching for signals. And psychologically, we do the exact same thing,
We really do. We're constantly pinging our environment.
constantly, to monitor how we are being perceived. We're adjusting our posture, our tone, our opinions, just to ensure our brand, remains intact.
Which leaves us with like very little battery life for actually experiencing the world around us.
Totally. So today, our mission in this deep dive is to figure out how to force quit those background apps.
I love that. Force quit the ego.
We are exploring a rather subversive cultural manifesto and philosophical essay called The Manual of Being Nobody, Instructions for Disappearing While Remaining Present. And this is by Max and Claude.
It's such a fascinating text.
It really is. We want to figure out how to put down the incredibly heavy burden of being somebody and, reclaim all that wasted energy.
Well, to do that, we first need to redefine what it actually means to be a nobody, because culturally, that word carries a really heavy stigma.
Oh, for sure.
We hear nobody, and we instantly picture someone who is worthless or invisible or entirely dissociated from reality.
Like a failure, essentially.
Right, a failure. But this essay flips that completely. Here, nobody just means undefined. It means being unbound by social markers.
Unbound. I like that.
Yeah. Imagine moving from a highly curated, deeply cluttered room packed with every trophy, diploma, opinion, and souvenir you have ever collected just to prove your worth.
Sounds exhausting just picturing it.
Right. Now imagine moving from that into a room that is just clear, open, sunlit space. That is the transition from a cluttered identity to the open space of being nobody.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if the goal is to clear out that cluttered room and stop performing for an audience, the first practical hurdle is simply existing around other people without, adding more junk to your shelves.
Exactly. You have to figure out how to step off the stage quietly.
And the authors tackle this by dissecting the spotlight effect. This is that cognitive distortion where you walk into a crowded room and genuinely believe everyone is watching you.
Oh, I get this all the time.
Right. You think they're judging your outfit, analyzing how you hold your drink, everything.
There is a deep evolutionary reason we do that, though. Thousands of years ago, if the tribe judged you poorly, you were exiled, which basically meant certain death.
Wow. So it's survival.
Exactly. Our brains are hardwired to scan for social approval as a survival mechanism. But in a modern context, it's just a glitch. The reality is that everyone else is far too busy starring in their own internal movie to critique your brief cameo in theirs.
That is strangely comforting. And recognizing that glitch allows you to change your physical behavior. There's this brilliant behavioral distinction made in the text between entering a room and arriving in a room.
Yes, the difference is subtle but huge.
When you enter, you cross the threshold in a way that announces your presence. You have this social face prepared. Your energy is projecting outward, demanding to be seen.
You're taking up space.
Right. But when you arrive, you move as though you have already been there for hours. You just drift into the periphery. You lower your social frequency.
And lowering that frequency involves starving what psychologists might call our cognitive heuristics, but what this essay beautifully terms the mental folder.
The mental folder.
Yeah. Human brains are cognitive misers. We're
Yeah.
lazy. We want to conserve energy. So when you meet someone new, their brain initiates this automatic categorization process to save calories.
You start asking the standard questions.
Right. They ask what you do for a living, where you live, where you went to school. And they aren't interrogating you maliciously. Their brain is just building a folder with your name on it,
Stuffing it with stereotypes.
stuffing it with stereotypes and assumptions so they know how to predict your behavior moving forward.
And the strategy here is to deliberately provide data that is completely useless for that categorization process. They call it the vague profession technique.
It's so clever.
Instead of giving them a specific job title that immediately assigns you a socioeconomic status, an income bracket, and a presumed political leaning, you offer something incredibly bland.
Like, I work in operations. Or I do consulting work for mid-sized firms.
Which is brilliant, honestly.
Yeah.
Saying I work in operations is the ultimate conversational off-ramp.
People's eyes just glaze over instantly.
They totally do. And it completely saves you from being trapped in like a 40-minute debate about the economy or the tech industry with a stranger at a dinner party. You get nothing to grab onto.
And it extends to our opinions as well. We live in an era where having a fierce, highly articulated opinion on every single global event is seen as a moral imperative.
Oh, absolutely.
But taking a hard tribal stance at a dinner party just locks you into another identity box. So the essay suggests adopting borrowed opinions.
Okay, what does that sound like?
Well, when cornered on a controversial topic, you simply say, I can see valid points on both sides. Or, the most liberating phrase of all, I actually haven't researched that enough to have a strong view.
See, I have to push back on this, though. If you are deliberately giving vague answers about your job and you're actively hiding what you truly believe about the world, aren't you essentially lying?
It feels like it, right?
Yeah, or at the very least, you are weaponizing politeness to be an aggressively boring person to interact with.
What's fascinating here is that it feels counterintuitive, but the authors argue it is not deception. It is the establishment of a very firm boundary through what they call a shallow presence.
Shallow presence.
Yes. You aren't being cold, aloof, or dismissive. You can actually be incredibly warm. You can maintain fantastic eye contact, smile, and ask genuinely curious, engaging questions about the other person's life.
So you're still engaged.
Deeply engaged. You are simply withholding the specific self-revelation that allows them to categorize you. You become a pleasant room with comfortable furniture, but absolutely no identifying art on the walls.
Oh.
People leave the interaction feeling heard and deeply valued because you gave them your full attention. But later, they realize they don't actually know a single concrete fact about you.
You essentially become a mirror for them.
Yeah.
And because you aren't spending energy defending your own ego, you can actually listen to them.
Exactly.
Which is wild. And once you stop actively performing for others in these social settings, you suddenly realize how much passive baggage you carry around on a daily basis. I'm talking about the sheer crushing weight of proving your worth to the world through accumulation.
Oh, yeah. We treat experiences and possessions as social currency. We accumulate novelty just to build our internal resume.
Exactly. It's the curated social media grid of the mind.
Yeah.
You have to stop and ask yourself, like, do you actually want that ultra lightweight, ridiculously expensive hiking gear?
Probably not.
Right. Did you actually enjoy the grueling logistics of backpacking through 40 different countries? Or do you just desperately want the story of being the kind of adventurous, highly educated, successful person who does those things?
We exhaust ourselves collecting props for a play we didn't even write.
We really do.
The essay proposes a radical alternative to this constant accumulation. They call it the experience-light biography.
The experience-light biography.
Okay.
Culturally, we are conditioned to believe that a quiet, repetitive life is an impoverished life. So we bounce from country to country, hobby to hobby, trying to collect anecdotes for cocktail parties.
Just skimming the surface.
Exactly. Bouncing around means we are constantly orienting our brains to novelty. We are skimming the surface of the world. The authors argue for the profound, unnarrated richness of the familiar.
They use the example of walking the exact same path by the same river for 6 years.
I mean, most people would call that a rut.
They would. But neurologically and spiritually, it's the opposite. When you stop scanning your environment for threats or novel dopamine hits, your sensory processing actually deepens.
Oh, that makes sense.
You stop looking at the river as a concept and start noticing the specific smell of the mud changing from spring to summer. You notice how the current shifts slightly over a hidden rock after a heavy rain.
You really tune in.
You know that tiny piece of the world intimately. Bouncing around the globe just to say you did completely misses that depth because you never allow your brain to rest in the familiar long enough to see what's underneath the surface.
That reframing really makes you evaluate your own surroundings. for you listening right now, take a mental inventory of your physical and social clutter. Open your closet, look at your calendar, look at the recurring memberships on your credit card.
It's revealing.
It is. What in there actually serves your daily breathing existence? And what is just a prop for the story you were trying to tell other people? What heavy, expensive things are you dragging around just so you don't lose your status as a somebody?
And, shedding those props handles the outside world. You clear out the closet, you practice your shallow presence at networking events, but the true test of this philosophy happens when you handle the inside world.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because you can be completely vague at a dinner party, but eventually you go home.
You do.
You're totally alone in your house, and you realize that the most relentless, judgmental audience member isn't your boss or your neighbors.
Yeah.
It is inside your own head, the internal witness.
In neuroscience, this is often associated with the default mode network. It is the brain's idling state, and it is obsessed with the past and the future.
Always spinning.
Always. It's the voice constantly narrating your life, judging your choices, playing back that awkward thing you said 3 years ago, or spinning out anxieties about tomorrow. It is a tireless machine generating your sense of self.
To quiet that machine, the essay introduces a practice called the witness fast.
The witness fast.
Yeah. You deliberately choose a morning, or even an entire day, to live as if absolutely no record of it will be kept. You visualize the internal audience completely vanishing. No future version of yourself will remember this morning.
That sounds incredibly freeing.
It is. You aren't gathering material for a story you'll tell your partner later. You aren't optimizing your routine. You are simply engaging in the pure physics of existing.
Which requires interrupting the linguistic machinery of how we think. This brings us to the name silence practice.
Oh, the grammar thing.
Yes. The authors point out a fascinating grammatical trap built into the English language. We are linguistically forced to center our identity in every single experience.
How so?
Well, you cannot just say, hunger is happening. Grammar demands that you say, I am hungry.
So it forces you to claim ownership over a temporary physiological state.
Exactly. It glues the passing experience directly to your core identity. In psychology, breaking this habit is similar to a concept called cognitive deficiency. You spend a morning mentally shifting your internal language.
Taking the I out of it.
Right. When the stomach rumbles, instead of I am hungry, you observe, the body requires food. Instead of I am incredibly anxious about this meeting, you note, worry is present in the chest. By simply removing the I, the experience instantly becomes less sticky.
You create a buffer zone.
You do. You realize you are not your hunger and you are not your anxiety. You're just the vast, quiet space where those temporary sensations are passing through.
Taking that sensory deprivation a step further, they suggest a mirror fast. Covering up all the mirrors in your house, avoiding store windows, keeping your phone screen angled away so you can't see your reflection for a full week.
A full week without a mirror?
Yeah, because we think we check mirrors just to see if our hair looks good. But on a subconscious level, we do it to visually confirm our own solidity. We use our reflection to prove to ourselves that we still exist in physical space.
We really rely heavily on visual self-confirmation. When you remove that feedback loop, your brain has to shift from visual identity to proprioception.
Which is the internal sense of where your body is in space,
Right.
right? And the essay notes that removing mirrors causes a mild, airy disorientation for the first few days. Your brain's feedback loop is broken.
That makes sense.
But eventually you begin to separate the face you wear for society from the actual formless awareness that is experiencing the world from behind your eyes.
I have to stop the bus here, though. I want to look at this critically because I know what some of you are thinking. Peeling away every single layer of your identity, detaching from your opinions, taking away the I from your internal vocabulary, refusing to look at your own face.
It sounds extreme.
It does. Isn't there a massive psychological risk here? Like, is this beautifully written manifesto actually just a highly philosophical excuse to succumb to clinical depression?
That is the big concern.
Is it an intellectualized way to avoid commitment, ghost your friends, and check out of life because maintaining relationships is just too hard? This raises an important question, and it's the most crucial one to ask. The authors actually dedicate chapter 6 of the text to this exact shadow side.
Okay, so they address it.
They do. They acknowledge that the line between disappearance and flight is razor thin. Becoming a nobody can easily mutate into a sophisticated mechanism for trauma avoidance or apathy.
So how do we distinguish between genuine liberation and emotional flatlining? How do you know neurologically or emotionally which one you're experiencing?
The authors provide a very clear diagnostic metric. True practice, the genuine shedding of the ego's heavy armor feels like spaciousness.
Spaciousness.
Yes, it feels light, energized, permeable, and open. You feel deeply connected to your surroundings. Avoidant withdrawal or depression feels like flatness.
Flatness.
It feels heavy, depleted, muted, and isolated. If you practice these techniques and feel a sense of profound, quiet joy and curiosity, you're practicing freedom. If you do this and the world just goes gray, meaningless, and cold, you are hiding.
Spaciousness versus flatness. That is a vital emotional barometer.
There is also a practical, ethical dilemma the text addresses, the free rider problem.
Oh, right.
If you completely opt out of every community system, if you refuse to have opinions, if you ghost the neighborhood association and avoid all social obligations, you are essentially a free rider on the social infrastructure maintained by the somebodies.
Because someone has to do the work.
Exactly. Someone has to organize the PTA, someone has to vote, someone has to manage the community garden. Your freedom to float around as an unbothered ghost is heavily subsidized by the people willing to show up, take a stance, and do the heavy lifting of keeping society running.
Which brings up the ultimate tension in this whole philosophy. Love.
Yes.
Love.
Real, sustaining, deep human love requires you to be known. It requires consistency, vulnerability, and presence. You cannot be a fluid, shape-shifting nobody to your child.
No, you can't.
You can't be an anonymous, vague ghost to your spouse or your closest friend. They need you to be a reliable, predictable somebody. They need you to have a solid identity they can trust. Which is why the final resolution of the text is a concept called selective depth.
Selective depth.
Yeah. The goal of becoming a nobody was never to be completely unknown to the entire human race. The goal is energetic conservation. You practice anonymity, shallow presence, and non-accumulation in the broad, exhausting social world.
Saving your battery.
Exactly. You stop performing at the networking events, you stop fighting in the comment sections, you let go of the casual acquaintanceships that drain you, you reclaim all of that battery life.
And then you redirect it.
Precisely. You take that raw, unburdened, beautifully preserved energy, and you use it to be profoundly, transparently, and consistently present for the 2 or 3 people who truly matter.
You are anonymous to the crowds so that you can be completely bare for your inner circle.
Yeah.
When you are with your partner, you aren't performing the role of good partner to validate your own ego. You are just cleanly, simply with them.
The love isn't contaminated by your need for them to mirror your identity back to you.
We've traversed quite a journey here. From the noisy, exhausting center of a crowded room, learning to fade to the edges, dropping the heavy internal resumes, silencing the narrator, carefully choosing where to actually deploy our depth.
It's a lot to process.
It is. So what does this all mean? What does the end of that journey actually look like?
Well, the authors describe it in their coda as the feeling of an ordinary Tuesday morning.
An ordinary Tuesday morning.
Yeah. You wake up, and for just a few precious seconds before the brain fully boots up, the story of who you are hasn't assembled yet.
I love that feeling.
It's the best. You don't immediately remember your job title, your anxieties, your ongoing arguments, or your social status. And in that brief, crystalline window, you realize a fundamental truth. You are not your story. You're the space beneath the story.
That is so powerful.
It really synthesizes the final paradox of this entire practice. You cannot arrive at freedom by trying to be free, because trying to be a nobody is just another ego performance.
Right, it becomes a trap itself.
Exactly. It's just playing the character of the detached, enlightened sage, which is just as exhausting as playing the corporate ladder climber. Ultimately, you learn that the self, this identity you have defended so fiercely your entire life, is just a suit.
A suit.
It is a garment. You can put it on when the world requires you to navigate a bureaucracy, advocate for a cause, or comfort a friend, and then you can take it off and hang it in the closet when you don't need it. You discover that being a nobody is actually just being a deeply present, incredibly alive somebody who is no longer trapped by their own reflection.
It is a beautiful place to arrive.
Yeah.
But I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today, something that takes this concept into our immediate reality.
Oh, here we go.
We live in a hyper-connected, technologically surveilled world. Everyone is frantically building a personal brand. But even if you choose not to, the algorithms are building one for you.
That is so true.
Your phone tracks your location, facial recognition scans you at the grocery store, AI predicts your purchasing habits based on your data exhaust.
The machine demands that you be somebody measurable.
So what happens when the ultimate rebellion, consciously becoming a ghost, runs up against a digital infrastructure designed to never let you disappear?
That's the real challenge.
If you decide tonight that you completely surrender the need to leave a legacy, how much of your current anxiety would simply cease to exist by tomorrow morning? But also, how do you practice being a nobody in a world where your digital footprint insists, permanently and loudly, you are somebody? It's a modern puzzle,
Yeah.
and it's one worth sitting with the next time you feel the urge to remind the world that you exist.